Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal. This is another edition of the 9 o'clock Meltdown podcast. And over Instagram video, I have the very talented and wonderful Erika of Ghost Baby Fitness. Hello. How are you?
Hi, I'm so well. How are you?
Fabulous for a Sunday. Doing pretty good. Pretty good. So you're in the middle of moving, which I'm absolutely elated that you were able to take time out of moving to talk with me in the wider world about what you have going on. Seems like you've got quite a bit of things going on in your life besides uprooting and moving somewhere else. But let's kind of jump into things here. How's Erika? What's Erika doing? And then we'll go into Ghost Baby.
Well, you've caught me sanding my walls. I hung too much art, and so if you take any of my classes, you see it in the background. So I've been taking it down. Next week, I'm going to offer a Zoom class that's called Ghost Baby Reruns. Whoever attends the Zoom class and myself, we pick a video from my library and we all take it together because I don't really have the capacity space-wise or brain capacity-wise to teach a class right now. But I can take a class, and I think it'd be really funny to be like, this class is real hard. What is she thinking? So
I love it. I love it. And now I stumbled upon you actually on Instagram. You are a life partner of a musician that I am very fond of and a band that I'm very fond of. We won't get into that. This is not about them. So I actually stumbled upon you that way. And then I just thought, wow, this is a really cool cat. What else does she got going on? Not to mention that you guys own cats as well. But you also, you worked at a boutique up until maybe a couple days ago. And then you've started posting about bar classes, Barre, which is not something I'm familiar with at all. And I'm starting to kind of learn about it a little bit, but let's let's dive in first. So Erika, you are out in Los Angeles right now. So what's that transition like? I mean, were you in the boutique setting first, kind of just working a cashier job, or how did all of it come about?
Okay, let me think of the best place to start. So when I was a kid, I danced ballet. As I became a teenager, I started doing it pre-professionally, where I really thought that's what I was going to do with my life, be a professional ballerina. At 18, I decided that wasn't for me, and I went to college. I went to Ohio State. I decided that wasn't for me. I moved to Los Angeles because I had some friends here, and I started just working wherever I could. Like I worked at American Apparel, then I worked for a website. I worked for a couple different things. But so all this time, I would take dance classes recreationally because that is really like who I am at my core. I love to dance. I love music, and finding ways to still incorporate that in my life while not being a professional ballerina. So I would take random dance classes, and then of course I got to the point in my life where I was like, gosh, I really like my body doesn't feel as good as it used to. I should start working out. And I thought that I just join a gym, and I would go to the gym and stand on the elliptical for 20 minutes and go, well, this is awful, and leave. So then I started finding dance classes that I really liked that were follow along hip hop classes, and I started doing adult gymnastics. I decided that I was going to maintain my fitness level, like my body feeling good, by doing only things that I liked. And so I started with adult gymnastics. I started when I was 29. Like I learned to do backflips. I learned to do a round off back tuck. I learned to do stuff on the bars when I was 29 and into my 30s, which I was very proud of. And that made me feel like I could expand to other things. So I would take any kind of fitness class that was possible. I took aerial silks and aerial hoop. I did a synchronized swimming class for a year, and everyone was like, are you even a good swimmer? And I was like, no, I can simply not drown. And that is the basic level of like swimming I can attain. I was like, but it's in the shallow end, it's fine. So and I had like the nose clip and the swim cap and everything. So I did that, and in my journey, I ended up taking a bar class, so Barre, and I didn't really know what to expect. And what I found it was movements that were very similar, very comfortable in my body. Lots of kind of ballet adjacent positions and using a ballet bar to stabilize yourself. So that felt very much more my speed than doing burpees, than doing lunges. Like that was just very uncomfortable for me. I've tried CrossFit so many times. Everybody tells me, you maybe didn't like it now, but now you'll like CrossFit with me. No, I don't. Don't make me run. Hunter asked me, my boyfriend asked me if I would go running with him, and he said it's just a mile, and I cried the whole time. And he was like, wow, you really don't like running.
Oh, no.
So I found something that was very comfortable to me, and I began taking barre. I was taking 4 to 5 times a week. I loved it. It was a great place to go and turn my brain off and do these movements, and it made my body feel so good. So I did that for a few years, and then it got to 2019, and I had a full existential crisis. I was working at a desk job that I hated, and I was like, I'm not using my full brain here. I am sitting in a windowless office for 10 hours a day. There's got to be more to life than this. So I decided I was going to become a barre instructor myself. I decided the kind of person that I wanted to be was a person who made people's lives better in some capacity. I decided when I interacted with people, I wanted them to leave feeling positive, feeling hopeful, feeling excited about that relationship that they had just formed, whether that was in my barre classes. I was like, I don't care if your body feels good. Maybe I make you laugh, something like that. I'm an artist, and so I do pet portraits, and I was like, I want to give people like the warmth and like, especially if you've lost an animal, being able to look at this portrait and feel like they're there with you again, give that feeling, give a positive feeling. And the other thing was, so I quit that job, and I ended up getting a part-time job at this plant shop, high-end boutique. And I decided that my relationship with customers would be, I would be warm and friendly and help them pick out things for their home and give them plant care advice, so that when they left that interaction, they would feel warm and cared for. And I would just be the kind of person whose interactions with you you'd feel very excited. During the pandemic, I had just become certified at this like boutique barre place, and you couldn't teach anymore. They were like, you can come to our studio and teach. And I was like, oh, absolutely not. I will teach online, end of list. I take this very seriously. And they said I couldn't teach. And so I started teaching on my own. That ended up in them trying to like sue me and tell me I couldn't do it. So I separated from the company, and I was like, well, I'm more important than your company. So I will just continue doing what I'm doing away from you.
Okay.
And I've been doing it since 2020. So it's been about 3.5 years now, and I've built my business, and along the way I've met people who think of fitness the way that I do, and it's really reshaped my relationship with fitness classes, and kind of pulling the curtain back on the toxicity that exists in the way that I was taught to teach classes, and how to remove that from my vernacular, remove that from my classes, truly make my classes all ages, all levels of fitness, all body kinds and types and shapes, and make it a place where you feel included as opposed to excluded. And so I know a lot of people have not heard of barre before, let alone taken a barre class, because it kind of conjures up this image of an already fit, thin white woman. And like, that's how I found it. I'm an already fit, thin white woman. I have all of those privileges. And of course I dance ballet. So I was like, this is a home for me. Right. What I found from taking these classes and from becoming an instructor myself is that barre was founded by a woman who was a former dancer, and she was working with her physical therapist to heal a back injury. So barre strengthens all of the muscles that support your back. It strengthens your core. It strengthens your quads. It strengthens your glutes. The original founder of it wanted to incorporate the music into it. Okay. Barre classes started as everyone standing in a circle and chatting throughout class. So if you go to an American barre class, everyone will be facing forward. No one talks the whole time. The instructor has a microphone. You do whatever they tell you to do. But in these original classes, I learned they would all have a conversation the whole time. And learning that, and learning to work with someone who had worked with the founder of barre, really shaped how I could make it more inclusive. And working with people who don't have thin, already fit white bodies was also integral in making my classes accessible for everyone. That was the longest winded answer into how did you get into this. But I feel that every step of that process kind of helped informed how I found my way into it and the kind of things that I took away from that in my journey, and what I realized that for me in my classes, in order to attain my goal of being accessible, being inclusive, making people feel seen and considered, and even making my language in class, a lot of people, a lot of fitness places, hey guys, or because it's bar, hey ladies, whatever, making it totally gender neutral, making it, never referencing, being thoughtful and mindful of that aspect, which is a minor change for me to make, which I say, hey friends, or hey fellow mortals. But even making those minor changes can really change somebody's entire perception and attitude towards class. So.
Right. Was that, hey fellow mortals, excuse me, a D&D reference there? Is that...
I can't remember where it came from. I think it was me and my friend talking about it, but I do have a friend, one of my regulars is a D&D person.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think it came from that, which is funny because it would.
Oh, yeah.
but it's, I like it because it's like, it's just macabre enough.
Right.
to elicit laughter.
Yeah, no.
Set the vibe immediately that this is not a serious place. A common thing that you see on Instagram is the way a lot of fitness instructors present themselves as the matching leggings with the matching crop top and the very, like, it's just a very, in a clean background, like they're in a studio, whatever.
Yeah,
and I kind of realized early on that the way that I present myself is going to be the same as how my classes are, which are welcoming and not the same as everybody else. And just like, very like, I'm one of you. I'm also working out at home, so why would I not do my classes in my living room always?
Right.
I'm also working out at home, so I'm going to wear whatever leggings are clean. I'm going to wear whatever cropped band shirt that I have, which I've got Celine Dion, Rick James, AFI. I've got Tina Turner shirts, and so random skateboard companies, but like these big oversized shirts that I cut up and still wear my glasses because I can't see without them.
Yeah.
And I'm just not the kind of person to wear like to fit into that, what Instagram wants to present, what society looks at as someone who is a fitness instructor. And for me, I decided, I'm actually working with a program right now that's like a marketing company. And when I was explaining my kind of plight, my elevator pitch to my mentor, I said, I want to be Richard Simmons. And she was like, that's you. That's your vibe. is no one else looks like or acts like Richard Simmons.
Right.
So I want to be Ghost Baby, which is no one else looks like me. I've had people try to copy my style of teaching.
Oh, really?
And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, they'll try to make it, they'll try to do what I do, or they'll try to like, oh, I love your playlist, so I'm going to make one, but like in this way that's not their take on it. They're just copying me, but they can't, I realize they can't be me. I'm me. I'm the product. That's why people come to my classes, and I'm like, they'll find their own thing. It used to really piss me off, but now I'm like, they'll find their own thing. They're still navigating. They're finding out what works for them. But no one can be me. No one knows the weird Steely Dan facts that they present in, like, that I present in class. Like, that's specific to me. No one else. They'll find their own thing. I'm confident in what I do, and I know that I now have like the grace to know, what, they'll try, but they can't be me, and so they'll find their own thing. And maybe starting with what I do is something that will help them on their journey. So
right.
But yes, I've had people try to see, oh, I like what she's doing, I'm going to do it too, and I'm like, oh, but you can't.
Erika, that's a fabulous story. I love it. I love it. So now you had mentioned that you do pet portraits. Now, did you go to school for art, or was that something that you were always doing, was just kind of drawing growing up?
I was always drawing growing up, and I loved it. I was just telling somebody earlier that my parents' house had many of my various like childhood artworks on the walls and stuff. And I would always take art, art classes and stuff. But I never very seriously. But then when I, quit ballet, the second half of my senior year, when I was 18 years old, and I was like, well, I guess I won't be joining a ballet company or going down that route. My parents were like, well, then you have to go to college. And I was like, I don't want to. And they were like, well, you have to. And at the time, I had to. It was kind of this, like, I was really cornered by them. And they were like, because my dad was a professor at Ohio State, they were like, it's free. We will pay for you to live in the dorms. This is a generous offer. You better fucking take it. And I was like, and so I went, and they were like, pick a major. And I was like, art. So I had to take all these art classes. College was such a nightmare for me. I did horrible in everything except for art and French. And at one point I tried to do a study abroad program. I went to the, foreign languages office, and they were like, you got a D in math. And I'm like, oh, because I didn't go. I know math. And they go, okay, well, here grades matter. And you have to do well in things that you don't like in order to get to do the things that you do like. And I was like, well, your system seems flawed. So I did do, how long was I at Ohio State? Like, people would be like, oh, my junior year. And I'm like, I don't know. I was there for 3 years, but nothing really, took. I never got into the art major program because I never applied, which is its own stupid story that we won't get into because it's not relevant. But I did take art classes. I did do some of the classes that really helped me were figure drawing and life drawing, and then just classes learning perspective and learning. The thing that I find helped me was learning to train your brain to draw what you see and not what you think you see, because your brain naturally, if you look at an eyeball, your brain takes that, looks at it and goes, I know what an eyeball looks like. And then when you draw it, it goes, I know what an eyeball looks like. And it's very cartoon character shape. But when you actually look at it, there's all these different, the ways that the eyelashes grow, the way that your eyeball sits inside your eye, the way that your iris is only it's rounded at the top, but part of your iris is cut off at the bottom. There's a way that you see that it actually is, that you have to train your brain to zoom out and focus on these granular details and see it. So that was the thing that I actually learned in college that I'm like, okay, that was helpful. But again, I didn't do that professionally. I've always had, different creative endeavors my whole life. And in 2014, I was at Best Buy, and there was an iPad open, and it had this app on it where you could draw. And I was like, and a little stylus. And I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to teach myself how to draw on this, I'm going to draw every day. And eventually I'm going to figure out something, and then that will pay for the iPad. I was just like, okay, I'm going to treat myself to this, but I'm going to use it for art. I'm going to sell that and pay for it.
Yeah.
And I started drawing every day, and which was weird because I didn't consciously think I need to sit down and I need to draw for this half hour. I was just so motivated that I did draw every day. And then I started doing weird portraits that were kind of cartoony. I started drawing kind of I did family portraits for a while that were very cartoony, and then I tried to do watercolor stuff. But then in 2018, I was always drawing my little dog Lula. She would always be my reference for trying, let's try this style. And I did one in black and white that was just with this little pencil brush. And I was like, oh, I like that. And it was I had to look very hard at what I was actually drawing and not what my brain thought, oh, this is what a dog looks like.
Okay.
So I started doing them, and I posted a couple. I did some for friends for free, and then I posted them on my Instagram. And I was like, hey, I'm doing these portraits now. They cost this much. Message me, send me a picture. Let's do it. And I started doing them. And I am still doing them, which is crazy that it's, what is it? I mean, it's been 5 and some years. But it's fun to look back at the first ones I did and how I do them now and be like, wow, I really I got better. And people are like, oh, you're so talented. I'm like, that's not talent. There is something to say that I am a creative person and I am motivated, and I see the way that my brain works is already set up to be predisposed to be good at creative things, the way that I see color, the way that I experience life in general.
Right.
But the drawing itself is not a talent. The drawing itself, I've drawn every day for 10 years in this specific style with this specific medium. I've put in hours and hours of work. It's just doing it. And it's the same with teaching. People say, oh, you're so talented. And I'm like, girl, if you knew how much I cried when I was learning how to teach, you would not consider that talent.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a fucking rub. It's such a burn to like all the ways that I want to do stuff in my life. Like I'm very like, if I'm not good at something from the get-go, I don't want to do it.
Oh.
And then like, you know, now I'm older and going, like I turned 40 this year and I'm like, oh man, you gotta work hard to be good at stuff. What a nightmare. That like, oh, it is what they tell you.
Right.
What a disappointment.
Yeah. And you know, Erika, to that point, I heard a quote one time that there's no such thing as talent. There's just tons of practice. Practice makes talent.
It does.
And that is so true. It's so true. Like I cannot tell you how many times, especially when I was younger, like, just to put it into relative, I'll be 35 in 2 weeks.
An elder millennial.
Right,
like myself.
Yes, exactly. I think we're getting along very well. Like, I've got tattoo sleeves and all that jazz. I'm a skinny, fit white woman, too. So, high five through the screen. But, to kind of get to that point, it's so true. And throughout growing up, you know, you'd hear all the time the word talent, whether it was in, you know, a magazine or on TV or, you know, whatever it was. And that almost kind of makes you feel talentless. Like if you're not good at something right away.
Yes, you just like took my breath away. Like I did a little gasp, like, I relate to that. And when you're not good at something immediately, you're like, oh, I'm not talented.
Right.
You know? It's not that.
No, it's not. And it, you know, knowing what I know now, you know, there's that other phrase that you wish you could teach your younger self, but that's not what life is about. Life is about those experiences and kind of gaining that knowledge and moving yourself forward. But yeah, practice makes talent. Talent isn't something that you're born with. It doesn't exist. Like, I mean, yeah, can somebody maybe get up and sing and hit like a G4 or 5? Totally. Like, totally, that happens all the time, but not when you really want to put in the effort for something. Like, I myself, I am confident in my interview skills and my podcasting, but I've been doing it for 13 years. You know?
Yes,
like,
I was just gonna say, from what you had told me before, I'm like, you're a great interviewer, you're a great podcaster, you speak so eloquently, and that's not because you are just born good at it. You've worked at it, you've honed it, you've worked for things like, your experience is similar to mine, where you worked in something that was very limiting in what you could do, and no swearing, and having to, you know, work a certain way. And I find even having those experiences is so important, because you are able to refine your skills in a certain narrow viewpoint, in a certain kind of box. And then once you leave that, you have those finely tuned skills. You've practiced those for so long. Once you leave that, you go, oh my God, that was a breath of fresh air. You can really focus on what you do want to do, but you have the foundational skills there. So learning within those parameters ends up being helpful. Those soul crushing, it can be more helpful. You know, the first place where I learned to teach barre was for a company that had a really good training program. I had really great instructors that helped me, but they were so specific in what their brand was that you couldn't say the word grab. You couldn't say grab a mat. They were like, no, that's too violent. We say take a mat. And so my friends and I would joke, extend your fingers, gently pull them together as you coerce the mat to you, and head to your barre. You know, it was so weird. And there was things like that. And I had an instructor say to me, when she was training me, don't reference the music. People don't come for the music. People come to work out. So don't talk about that. Only talk about the workout. You're making too many jokes. And I was like, in my brain, I was like, okay, as soon as you're not here, I'm going to keep fucking doing that because I don't give a fuck. But that was to her what the brand was, and it was her studio. So, you know, I had to kind of like, at that point, I had to smile and nod it and say, sure. And then fast forward to when I was actually teaching, she was very disappointed to find out that my Sunday classes had become me blasting the disco playlist louder than you're supposed to in the studio. And I had a room of 25 people, which is the max for a class, going like listening to Staying Alive, or like, no, it was the Bee Gees, You Should Be Dancing, and then being like, just try to get as low as you possibly can, just like John Travolta in his little white suit on that light up floor, and like, yeah, and like bouncing around the room, which was all like not cohesive with their brand. Everyone loved it, but they were like, this is like, she took the disco playlist off the iPod and was like, you can't use it. And I was like, okay, so this is not for me. Yeah. But I had to learn to teach within those parameters, and it did help me learn how to instruct confidently and authoritatively, and how to the flow of class. It helped me learn the foundational elements so that once I was free of that, sometimes I will intentionally say grab because I'm like, oh wait, I can. Just as a little fuck you to them or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I, you know, my classes are a lot about, you took one, and a lot of them are about referencing the music and about making the music a big part of it. You know, one of my, I just posted on my Instagram before this, my class that the playlist was songs from musicals is available, and I had everybody doing biceps and arms like this to Gaston from Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just try to incorporate it in a way that is like, it's like it's on the nose, and it's silly, and it's funny, and you can get strong while not taking yourself seriously, you know? And then if you're like, fuck, I need to stop, you put them down, but you're still enjoying class because there's jokes, the music is good, and you can rejoin when you want. So that's like, to bring it back to bar, working within those parameters can really help expand your creativity, because having it limited for so long kind of builds up this itch within you, and then you get to unleash that.
Right. And, you know, something that you had said as well, and something that I've experienced, you know, I worked in radio for 10 years, and, you know, like you had said, you can't swear, you can't really express your opinion over the air, but within that, I learned to hone those skills of, okay, what are we actually talking about here? You know, where is this tangent welcome, and where do I need to keep people on track? So within that, you know, you learn to be creative in that confined kind of space. And now, you know, both you and I mean, I'm on a podcast, it's the Wild West, all hats are off. You know, I can say fuck if I want to, and no one's gonna care, which is awesome. And I am so glad to hear that, you know, you went through that rigmarole, and I'm sorry to hear that it was toxic and kind of damning almost. But it sounds like
it took a lot out of me.
Yeah,
it took a lot out of me, but that's like, but it helped me in the long run be a better instructor and find my people and find what I did want to do. And it really did mess with me. I still, when I get into a bad negative headspace, I still have dreams that those people are giving me notes that I've showed up to teach one of their classes, and I don't have a microphone, and they're mad at me and stuff. Like, that's how my anxiety brain works, which is like, oh, that sucks. But now it's the thing where I've had, like, time is the true healer, and I've had enough time from that where I'm able to look back at it and say, you know, I had a great training, and unfortunately, you know, I'm sad that I had that experience. I'm sad that I went through that, but in the end, I wouldn't have got where I am now without it. And that's not to say I'm thankful for it, because I don't think anybody should ever be thankful for any kind of emotional or psychological abuse or a toxic workplace. I don't think you should be thankful for that.
Yeah.
But you can acknowledge that time of hardship in your life helped inform the person you are now, helped informed your perception of yourself, your relationships with other people, where you say, I'm not going to be that to somebody else. I'm not going to allow that. Allows you to see those red flags in the future and allows you to grow. And I mean, again, if I could go through that all again and not have that happen, I would absolutely choose that to not happen. I don't ever wish that upon anybody. And I don't, it's important to me to acknowledge, like, everything happens for a reason. That's not who I am. I don't believe that. I don't believe you should be thankful for it. But that did inform how, for me, how to create an inclusive environment as opposed to an exclusive environment.
Right.
So amongst other things, that was a big one. And especially, like, I mean, to extrapolate on that, even, like I just said, like, oh, my free class for the month, because that's a way that I've found to be inclusive, is it costs me nothing to let people take a class of mine. And I also am a person who, I have so much anxiety, and especially if I'm taking a new class, I can't tell you how much I will Google and look at YouTube videos and try to find out what this class is like. And so I want to appeal to people like me who want to know what it's all about. And I will tell people, just watch a class. You don't have to take it. Pull it up and just watch it. See what it's about. See what the moves are. See if you like my personality. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're someone who thrives in an environment where everybody is dressed the same. You're just counting the beats. Some people, that is what they need. That is what they crave. That is great. That's not me. And so if you want that, you can, there's other people you can go to, you know?
Right.
You want to be more serious, but if you want to be more loose, if you want to be more fun, if you want to see what the movements are, see the kind of teacher that I am, I have 3 free classes on the front page of my site, and then I offer them, once a month. I'll be like, oh, fuck it, this class is going to be free now, and I make a private page, and I'll send it to you. You can take it if you want. And that, finding that way to be inclusive, not even for your physical health, for your mental health, to let somebody know this is what you can expect in a class of mine, without having to blindly sign up and go in and hope you like it,
Right.
And I don't ever want anybody to have the experience you had where you're like, I will never go, like come and then have to fight your way through it and feel upset the whole time and then go, I will never go back. I don't want somebody to have that. I want somebody to be able to watch it and go, great, I'm in, take it again, or nice try, not for me, and then not have to go through that experience of something that doesn't feel good in their body, whatever. And of course I want to be inclusive to everybody, but there are people that it's like, you know what, you might hate me, that's okay. There's other people for you, and I accept that. You can't like everybody.
Exactly. I mean, there's billions of people in the world. Not everybody can get along.
It's fully you can be the juiciest peach, and there's always going to be someone who doesn't like peaches. It's fine.
Right, exactly. Erika, something that you had said a little earlier, if some people really thrive in that kind of rigid standard environment, and that's totally fine. I mean, I know I kind of feel we're kindred spirits here. I had a desk job for many years, reception and this and that and the other thing, and I don't necessarily thrive at desk jobs. Can I do it? Yes, totally. You got to pay the bills. That's just how America works. But would I rather be moving around and kind of keeping up with things? Totally. And some people really thrive with desk jobs, and that's great. That's awesome. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. That's not where I thrive either. But to get into the format of your classes, I took one of your classes here a couple months ago now.
Yeah, you did?
I did, yes.
Was it the musicals class? I can't remember.
I can't remember offhand.
Okay.
But what I wanted to say about it was, right off the bat, you're very welcoming. You're like, hey, here's what we're gonna do. If this is too difficult for you, you can, lighten it or do X, Y, and Z. It's very, very welcoming. You're very inclusive with your language and things like that, which is kind of refreshing.
I've worked really, really hard to make all these little minor adjustments and these little, they add up to something that's really impactful, especially for people who, like you have mentioned, have felt not comfortable in other fitness classes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even the way that, so when I was learning to teach, I had learned to say, if this is too difficult, you can come on down to your elbows, or you can do this. But what I retrained myself to say was set up the movement and then say, if you want less intensity, you can do this. Or if you want more intensity, you can do this. And more often than not now, I start with the lowest intensity thing and I get you moving. And I say, if you would like more intensity, here's an adjustment that you can make. Mm-hmm. If you want even more intensity, you can kind of build on it. And I always make sure to say, if you've tried something and you've gone too far and you're like, Erika, this is not sustainable, go back to what you were doing before. And I try to offer all these avenues, and I'm still trying to know things like be able to provide these alternatives and lower intensity and higher intensity things. Mm-hmm. And to also acknowledge that it's often your body mm-hmm. that is a neutral thing that informs what will be the appropriate intensity for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of my friends is like, I do not like to do any exercise whatsoever on my knees. And I'm like, great, that lets me know I need to provide alternatives for that. And I will start an exercise standing. And I will say, if you want more intensity, if it is within your whims, your desires, your abilities, come down onto your knees and mm-hmm. we can make this exercise work both ways. Right. And there's some things like where, again, acknowledging my privilege as a thin, white, fit woman who likes ballet already, these movements feel comfortable in my body. You know, not everybody who takes my classes like that. And so I offer different ways. Like I will flat out say like, this might not be possible for your body. And I will always make sure to show things that I'm like, this is hard for me. Mm-hmm. I can't lift my leg in this position, but maybe you can. Mm-hmm. But the reason that I can't is because of my body proportions, because I have a short torso and long legs. So lifting my legs are so fucking heavy that my body physically can't do it. And that sets me up to be predisposed to be, succeed at this exercise and find it really easy, or find it incredibly difficult and need to make variations or modifications to it. Mm-hmm. And so everybody is going to experience that throughout class. Mm-hmm. Everybody is going to, and it can be day to day, it can be hour to hour, it can be class to class, it can be exercise to exercise, where you get to experiment. The more you take class, the more you get to experiment and find what you get to be in touch with your body. You get to create that mind and body connection. You get to learn, oh, I have a longer torso. So when I lift my leg, I can whack my leg up there and it's still barely challenging my quads. So I'm going to add intensity this way. Whereas Erika is sitting on the floor and cannot lift her giant, heavy, muscular ass legs because she has no torso and no ab strength whatsoever to accommodate that. So trying to make the experience as body neutral as possible, saying this is just a fact. It's not positive or negative. It is completely neutral. Mm-hmm. This is the way your body is shaped. You cannot control that. So let's work with it. Yeah. Let's get to know ourselves and let's be able to make informed decisions on when to do something that is less intense and appropriate for you, and when to be able to challenge yourself and say, oh, this exercise works for me and my body. I'm finding a lot of joy in it. I want to go fucking hard as shit. And here's how I can add intensity, Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but that is my, again, a long-winded answer or a long-winded tangent into the thought that I have put into making things accessible and teaching in a comfortable way. And again, a body neutral way. Body positivity often has now flipped over into being a different kind of toxic, not as toxic as talking about torching calories and, well, if you can't do this, if you can't do the regular exercise, it's all those negative things. Yeah. Yeah. There's a medium in there where I want to create an environment where it is neutral and accepting, because you can't love it is not an attainable goal to love your body every second of every day. And to get to a place where you accept it and you can live in it and feel comfortable and move in it and feel, feel okay as a way more attainable goal.
Right.
And,
Right.
and there's going to be like anything, there's going to be peaks and valleys and stuff. And I just want to create an environment where it's like, okay, you get to know the parameters, again, the parameters in which you're working, how the proportions of your body affect how you might be able to move in a certain exercise, and then make the most of that. Just like we were talking about earlier.
Right, exactly.
Bringing it all back.
Yeah, yeah. And, something that I've learned in the last few years is the word limitation. And, it was always seen as kind of a negative connotation, but more recently it's come not in a negative light at all. It's just a fact. I have a limitation of how loud I can yell because I've got a small diaphragm. That's a limitation of mine.
Oh, that's the opposite of me. I have a limit on how quiet I can talk. Everyone's like, you're the loudest person I've ever met.
Oh, it's because you're used to teaching classes and getting 25 people to do what you want.
No. Oh, this is well before that. In fact, in my bar training class, there were many people who had smaller diaphragms, and the teacher would say, you need to project more. And they would be like, look, Erika's really good at that, but that's not because she's better than you. It's because she just has a naturally loud speaking voice. And then they said she already has a lot of vocal stamina. And I was like, look, I was raised in the house. I had 3 siblings. And if you didn't say what you had to say quickly and loudly, you didn't get heard. And for someone like me who's a performer and needs constant attention, I learned very young to yell all the time, which now is a total nightmare for everyone who knows me, but I have to work very hard at being quiet. So it's the opposite experience too. So please continue in what you were saying about limitations.
No, that's fine. No, but the word limitation has now kind of taken on a more neutral stance rather than a negative stance. When I was growing up, that's just a limitation. It was kind of seen as a negative thing, but now it's moved to a more neutral thing, something that you can't control. And then you learn to work within your own limitations, which I think is kind of cool in a way, just to kind of see how things have changed throughout time and kind of how we're moving in, a more positive light with language and things like that. It's very interesting. But Erika, let's jump back into Ghost Baby Fitness. Now I love the name. It really kind of strikes a chord, and your logo is absolutely adorable. It's your hair, but you're on a peach. Let's dive in.
Okay. So Ghost Baby came around. So my personal Instagram, I've been on Instagram since the day you could be on Instagram, and I have a bunch of followers, and I wanted, in that summer of strife that I experienced where I was having my mentee V, I wanted a private Instagram where I could just shitpost as much as I wanted. And I had a meme profile, and then I had this private profile where I would just shitpost, because I was like, I want to be able to post a selfie and not have it be like the male gaze of all these fucking assholes telling me whatever. Like, I want to post it for my friends. Like, I want to post a hot selfie, but like just for my friends and stuff. And so I had these 2 profiles, and one was Internet Ghost, because I was like, I've been on the internet forever and I've seen it all and commented on nothing. And then I was like, my other profile was Ghost Baby. So during the pandemic, when the bar studio wouldn't let me teach, I said, can I teach by myself? And at first they did agree, and they said, you can teach privately for your friends and family. And I was like, gotcha. So then I just started advertising my private Instagram, Ghost Baby. And I would go on Instagram like every day at 11 and be like, this is class today. And I would approve anybody who wanted to follow me. And I got up to like 600 followers. or something crazy in a
Nice.
shorter period of time because it was a pandemic, and everybody was like, I'll do anything, and like people were on Instagram lives and people were watching them and stuff, which was crazy. Like it was just this period of time where the internet was like finally like, I'm a very online person and I always have been, and I was like, oh, my time to shine.
Oh.
And so people would take my Ghost Baby class, and I realized one of my friends one day messaged me and she said she screen capped a text from her friend that said, Ghost Baby had the Titanic theme song on her playlist today. LOL, it was great. And I realized I didn't know that person, and I hadn't ever said my name. I had just come on and said, hey, everybody, let's do class. And that people knew me as Ghost Baby. So the bar company made me shut down my Instagram, and I was like, fine. Got everybody's email address and continued to teach on Zoom. When I was teaching on Zoom, my friend came to class every day, and one day she emailed me and she was like, you didn't ask me to do this, but I made you a little logo. And Chloe Rice, who I love dearly, she's a great friend of mine. We've done a lot of creative projects together. She does, one of her mediums is little construction paper cutouts and stuff.
Okay.
And she made a little construction paper Ghost Baby. And so I would always use the peach emoji because a lot of bar is centered on glute work, which we all know is the ass peach emoji. And I thought that was really cute and funny. And that was my logo on there was just the peach emoji. And so she took the peach emoji and then she made my face with my sprout of white hair, my little white bun piled on top of my head. And I loved it. She made me all these little infographics and stuff. And she was like, I'm bored as shit. I'm not working right now. And they were great. And she was like, I want to help you. And so when I would send out my email before class with the Zoom link, I had all of her logos in there, and it was a little thing like she had even written like, hi, I'm Ghost Baby, and here's what my classes are like, and here's what you need for them. And it was just like the cutest, like coolest thing. And I was like, do you mind if I continue using this? She was like, I would be honored. And so I still have those graphics, and so I use the Ghost Baby logo, which is like the little peach, because we're gonna hurt your buns, and my face, because that's like, I'm like, I have white hair now and I will never go back to having my natural hair. Well, I probably will. We can never say never. We're always growing and changing.
Right, exactly.
But for the foreseeable future, I'm all about this big white, like dark brown white afro, white lady afro that I have. And I use it all the time, and then I'll change it up. Like I did one year, I was like, I wanted have a birthday party, but it's during COVID and I don't know how. And Hunter goes, well, you love to teach your bar class. Why don't you throw a party? And I was like, well, that's crazy. So he made me a playlist that was fitness hits of 1983, the year that I was born. And I put a little party hat on my logo, you know, or for my Christmas class, I put a little Santa hat on. And then I taught an all Prince dance party class, and I made a Prince logo, you know. Like Prince was the guy in front of the peach, as it were. And so I love to make it like that. But that little logo came from Chloe, and Ghost Baby came from just a private Instagram name that I created, and ended up, I was like, oh, nobody knows my name. And then I was like, I'm Ghost Baby. And I also, like, it was a thing that I've always loved to do, where I'm like, you know what? Nobody's going to forget that. Like, when I was in college, I've already said my age and the year I was born, but in order to, like, properly date myself, when I was in college, AOL Instant Messenger was the thing. Like, texting wasn't a thing. And so if you met somebody at a party and you wanted to be friends, you would exchange Instant Messenger names.
Yep.
And so when I was at Ohio State, yeah, you know. So when I was at Ohio State, I made a new screen name. And my screen name was Squirrel Spank. And everyone was like, what the fuck? And I was like, you won't forget it. It
right?
was. So similar to Ghost Baby, like, what the fuck is Ghost Baby Fitness? And I'm like, you won't forget it. Like, who cares about Erika Peterson? Like, who cares? Whatever. There's a million of us out there, but there's only one Ghost Baby.
There you go. It sets you apart.
Yeah.
I like it.
Just another way that I'm like, this is who I am. It's gonna get weird.
But it's a fun weird though. And that's what makes
It's an
it,
inclusive weird.
yeah, that's what makes it very entertaining.
Oh, thank you.
And Erica, to that point, that kind of sounds similar with how I came up, or got rather, the 9 o'clock meltdown.
Yeah, tell
So
me.
yeah, I was in college, and before I became operations manager of the small little radio station that I worked at, I hosted a nightly show, and the show started at 9 p.m. And
Hmm.
at the time, I was in a video class, so I went to school for videography. So basically, I can make movies.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
love a multi-talented, just interested in everything. Just get your little paws on everything. Just see
and
what shakes out.
exactly, that's kind of what I've always done too. So,
The same.
yep, yep. So
Continue.
I was in a class, and my classmate Jake was with me because for the life of me, I could not hatch out what I wanted this plot of this 10-minute film I was supposed to make. And it was getting down to the wire, and I still hadn't flushed it out in my mind. Like it was just, I was hung up on it.
Hmm.
And we're sitting at the radio station. I can still picture it to this day. I'm sitting in this big old orange chair in wheels, and I've got this ancient like set up in front of me, and it's got the dials and all this stuff.
Yeah, I'm familiar. I remember that.
Yep, yep.
I've done that.
Right, right. And 9 o'clock is about to roll around, and I'm like, Jake, I don't know what to do. I'm like in the middle of kind of a panic.
You're
And
having a meltdown.
yeah, and Jake's
One
like,
might say.
yeah, and Jake's like, don't have a meltdown now. I'm like, but Jake, it's 9 o'clock and I have to be on air right now. And 9 o'clock meltdown was born.
9 o'clock meltdown. I
Yep.
love that. I have a hard time. I've had, like we discussed, I mean, I tried to keep my kind of like, how did you get into bar? I tried to keep that kind of linear in the best way possible, even though it's very non-linear. But I am a person who has tried everything. I've sold saxophones. I've been a cheesemonger. I went to pastry school. I've worked in prop manufacturing. I have been a plant expert at that boutique. I've done a lot of different things, and I've done cross stitching. I've had all these different businesses. Like I made T-shirts. Like I've created my own businesses and stuff. And coming up with a name is the worst fucking part.
Yes.
And especially like, here's how I feel that we're kind of the same. Like let's armchair diagnose. Would you consider yourself to be in the realm of like neurodivergence? Maybe ADD, ADHD, something like that.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
oh yeah. So in the neurodivergence, and
Yeah.
now I didn't get diagnosed with my neurodivergency, until 2021. So I've
Yeah.
gone my whole life just, this is me.
You've gone your whole life
Yeah.
going, is there something the matter with me?
Right.
And you know that there's not.
Right.
Because you're
right.
following your passions and you're doing what feels good to you, which is everything all at once, and hyper focus and like, I love this right now, and then
Yep.
trying different stuff. But other people's perception of that, like I was breaking up with my ex, and he trying to really gouge and make me feel bad for it, said, you know what disappointed me about you
Ooh.
is he goes, you never found your thing and stuck with it. And I looked and I was like, I don't have one thing. I am a multifaceted, multi-talented, very interesting person who has lived many lives and will continue to do so. And I thought about that and I was like, you don't get me. And that kind of like, it was a big light bulb moment. And there's like, there's certain things that people will say to you in your life where it's a little light bulb moment, and it's a thing that they say in passing, and maybe they don't even remember it, but often it comes from a therapist, or often it's a dig from an ex or something, or a boss, and it's something where it's always, for me, it's the moments where you realize somebody doesn't get you and then somebody does see you. It's those two very polarizing things that like end up kind of shaping you and helping you discover you
Mm-hmm.
and knowing. And so this was, I was telling someone the other day, like I was in 2019, I was like, I keep referencing this like huge mental breakdown I had. Like, let me tell you, it was like literally a summer of tears. And I was like, who am I? What the fuck is happening? I was ending a relationship of not only we had been together for 13 years, but we had known each other for 17 or 18 years. It was a really long time. And so it was like this big thing where I was like, what's happening? And I was like, who am I?
Yeah.
And a lot of self-discovery, hating my job. And as one of my friends described it, she was like, of all of your various cups in life, your relationship, your job, your hobbies, your family, all of your cups are empty and you have nothing. You're very depleted. How can you pour from an empty cup? And I was like, whoa. So during that mental breakdown is when this is like, I kind of had all these realizations. And that was when a therapist said to me, I was like, I keep looking at all these job listings online. And every time I look at them, I read the descriptions and I start to cry. And I'm like, I don't want this job. I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And she looks at me and she goes, because you're not supposed to have that kind of job. She goes, you're the job. And I was like, through tears, what? She goes, you're the job. You are a magnetic person. You are a creative person. You are interested in all these things. You have such passion. You're not a person that can sit and go to work and do the same thing every day. The job is you. You create what you want and the right people will come to you. And I was just like, my little mind just blew open. And I was like, I'm the job. I kept repeating that to myself and I was like, I'm the job. And I kind of was able to look back. And then this was also like, the point I was trying to make was I was working with, at that point, a life coach, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist. Like all of my friends were on speed dial and I would call them crying. Like this was a really I could not have gotten through this period of life without my friends.
Yeah.
And But this was like I said to my psychiatrist who had prescribed me, like, thank God, Lexapro, to be like, hey, you won't have these intrusive thoughts where you want to try to drive into traffic every day. And I was like, oh, thank God. One thing we can kind of focus on. And I said, I would like to be evaluated for ADD or ADHD. Like, I know that I have these traits and I know that's how my brain works. And he was like, oh, well, we just don't want people abusing drugs that way. And I was like, motherfucker. First of all, this guy was like in his 20s and I was like, my child. I would call him my child psychiatrist. And I was like, child, I don't want drugs. I want to know how my brain works and why I can't have a fucking job. Why I'm not happy living in this way that has become the entire norm. And that if you don't live in this 9-to-5 world where you're part of you're nodding so furiously right now, but you're not part of this a cog in the machine, why life is rigged against you, and then learn how to channel that and make it a superpower as opposed to feeling like there's something the matter with me. Because again, once you get to a certain point in your life, I'm like, this is how I am and I refuse to be stuffed down anymore. I want to be who I am because I know there's not anything wrong with me. I know there's not anything wrong with you or anybody else who is neurodivergent in any way, who's on this spectrum of having, ADD, ADHD, autism, any of these kinds of ways where your brain just doesn't work like other people's. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. In fact, you can harness that and make your world so tailored to you, but it is so fucking difficult that often it stuffs people down where they just feel, well, I guess I just have to live this way and there's something the matter with me. And being able to have that mental fortitude to persevere and make your life what you want it to be and in a way that you feel satisfied and happy and creative and able to make these adjustments and turns where you need to is so fucking hard. And like this mental breakdown occurred for me 4 years ago, and I still feel like I am on this journey of tailoring my life to be able to be what I want it to be, and I'm fucking 40 years old, which is not old, but in terms of having lived a life and the difference of how I felt when I was 20, I'm like, oh, I feel wise enough to know that I don't know fucking anything.
Right.
And that being able to think that way is so freeing.
Yes.
And not in a way where I'm a dumb baby and I don't know anything. It's this way where I've lived enough life to know I don't know what the fuck is next. And I don't care. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to know that the way that my brain works is so far removed from how I was raised to, how my ex who said you never found your one thing and stuck to it, how my family who they've all known what they wanted to do and traveled that path, you know, teachers and educators and scientists. And then there's me like out here going, this week I make dried flower arrangements. This week I do cross stitch, you know, learning that that's okay.
Right.
Can be so freeing. And so that's, again, part of why I decided the kind of person that I want to be in life, the overarching theme is that I want to be a person that sees people for who they are, makes a personal connection, and makes them feel seen. Whether you're the kind of person who shows up at a workout class and you're like, I want to be serious, I want to wear my matching outfit, I need this kind of stability and regimen and routine, or whether you're the kind of person in your neon blue sweatpants is like, hey guys, I'm fucking here, you know? Letting everybody know that however you are, you're predisposed to be a certain way, and if that's how you feel comfortable. I want people to feel comfortable in their own skin. And knowing that even for me, a person who, like I mentioned, my dad saw me skipping across the Ohio State campus in my thigh-high socks and giant red Mary Tyler Moore peacoat, you know, I'm pretty confident in who I am. But even realizing how long it took to even get from that person to the person that I am now took so much work.
Yeah.
You know?
But
and how life seems rigged against you. And how to work against that and with your own intuition.
Yeah.
You know? And persevere in the face of wow, this shit sucks, and doing your taxes as a person who is a freelancer fucking blows.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
I will simply keep going.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Erika, you don't have to tell me twice. I did taxes as a freelancer for probably about 5 years.
Yeah. I just want to, you know, I'm like, you know what? Every day I'm doing my taxes, I'm like, I just want to walk into the ocean right now and end it all. But I guess I'll sit on TurboTax while crying and figure it out.
Exactly. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
You've done it this long.
Yeah. This too shall pass.
Exactly. And I think to kind of further your point that you were making, you know, I don't think it's necessarily us going against the grain and going against society. I think it's us finding our flow within ourselves. Because I know for me, you can only speak to your personal experiences. I know for me, it wasn't me trying to go against the grain of everybody else. It was me going against the grain of myself. And not having that understanding or those life lessons that needed to happen for me to understand, oh, my brain is wired this way, you know, like, you're gonna see maroon, but I'm gonna see chartreuse, or, you know, whatever it is. So I think definitely as the older that we've both gotten, you know, it's finding those connections and finding your flow within yourself and then navigating it in the world that's around us. And
one of my very good friends, when I met her, she was straight up like, I have ADHD and girl, it is bad. And I was like, that's great. I see you. You know, let's figure out how to make it work. And she said that the nicest thing, she said, she always felt bad her whole life, you know, because when you have that, it's, why are you so lazy? What is, you know, and kind of not understanding. And she said that when she met her now fiance, that he was like, but baby, that's your superpower. And she was like, no one had ever said that to me before. And it made me feel so powerful and so like, yes. And so when we would, you know, we worked together and now we're like, you know, very good friends outside of that. But I would be like, let's use our superpowers together and, you know, figure out how to make things great for us, that work for us, that keep us, you know, productive, that makes, you know, we worked in the plant boutique together, you know, works for the business. but use it as a superpower and not a setback.
Right.
So that was like, and again, that's just living life and living in your lived experiences and getting to know day to day how your brain works, how tricking yourself. Like I saw this great TikTok that was like, if the world was tailored for people who are neurodivergent, it was like the concept of it was like a dishwashing app where you could like time yourself and rank yourself, and it was like this guy doing all the dishes really fast because like, you know, like tricking yourself into competition was like, and then, you know, how am I gonna do this? It was like very a neurodivergent, like, yes, make it a contest, make it competitive, and then I'll do it. But if it's just left to me, it's gonna sit there on forever. So, but learning the way that you work and learning the things that motivate me, learning, you know, where my superpowers lie, and then also learning when something doesn't work for me and how to ask for help, how to hire help, how to stay, you know, how to use other people's superpowers to increase my own, you know, and kind of it's, I don't know, it's just getting to learn about how our brains work and getting to know ourselves better is a truly beautiful experience. And, you know, and again, you know, the more you learning that you know nothing, the more you know, the less you know, and in being open to all these experiences and learning and knowing that, you know, things will change and being able to accept that fluidity and keeping yourself open as a person instead of closing off and going, this is how it is, this is how I am, that's that way forever, you know. The you know, the true value is in letting yourself continue to learn. I'm never going to say I'm done. I'm the bar instructor that I am. I'm done. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly I'll see a seminar and go, oh, I want to do like an online seminar. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to work with this teacher and learn how they teach. I want to continue growing because the more that I know, the more I can give. And it, you know, anyway, I feel like that's about all things.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And now to kind of get back into the bar side of things. So I took one of your classes and I had never taken bar before. And your class has a really good pace to it, and you've got fun music and you make it fun. Now something that I always found kind of interesting, or at least I found interesting with your class, was in your class you kind of do bouncing, like when you're stretching and things like that. And now growing up, I was taught that you never bounce when you stretch. Is that is that something kind of unique to bar, or is that something kind of unique to how Ghost Baby teaches?
So there's different kinds of stretching. There's different kind of exercises that you can do. And so the way I always start class is a way that I learned to start class from the original creator of bar, which is where you stand with your feet hip width apart in parallel, reach up to the ceiling, take a deep breath in, bend your knees, swing your arms and fold forward, bounce at the bottom and come back up to the top. Like that kind of like bouncing, and that's warming up your body. That's getting your joints moving. You're taking some deep breaths. You're sending oxygen throughout your body to fuel you for the next, 45 minutes to an hour of class. And then, so midway through class, we'll do a stretch where, say you put your foot on the bar or on the floor, and you can bend and extend your working leg on the bar to get a deeper stretch in your hamstrings, or your supporting leg, try to get it a little bit deeper. And the reason that that you do that is midway through class, you want to keep your muscles warm, you want to keep yourself lubricated, you want to do a more a moving stretch where you're still in the movement, you're keeping those joints lubricated and letting them know we're not done yet, and you're still circulating that oxygen. At the very end of class, we'll often sit on the floor, or we'll lay on the floor. The bar is gone. You're done with class. And that's when you do your static stretching. You're allowing your muscles to cool down. So you'll extend your leg out and you're just holding it there. There's no more bouncing. There's no, bending to the side anymore and kind of reaching farther. You're just using your breath. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And then as you exhale, try to fold deeper into that stretch. And that's your static stretch. You're letting your muscles know we're done. We're going to cool down. We're going to get a big stretch so that you're not all bunched up and sore the next day. You'll be sore for sure, but you're going to be more lengthened. Your muscles there's not that built up lactic acid, holding you so tight. You get a nice stretch, a release. So there are two different kinds of stretching. One is more mobile. It's in the middle of class. You're continuing to move. And then at the end of class, you do a static stretch. That's the signifier to cool down, let your heart rate cool down, let your breathing stabilize and stuff. So
Yeah.
There's two different kinds of stretching.
Perfect.
So
And then
that was a fun thing that I got to learn.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. And then something that you had posted about was you are now certified in the London method. Now,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning, this bar is a whole new realm to me. What is the London method, and how does it differ? I mean, did
Okay.
you get to go to London?
Not yet.
Okay.
So most people, if you're familiar with bar at all, bar is American bar classes are, again, that's kind of conjures up that image that I talked about earlier, like already fit, white, thin women just already in a room doing their very regimented movements with a bar as a support.
Yeah.
And that is different than how it started. So the London method, I have a friend, Kelly, and in 2015, she was a bar teacher, and she thought, I want to find out how this started. She ended up finding the creator of bar, the inventor of bar. She's the one I talked about earlier. She was a dancer who was working with a physical therapist in order to heal her back injury. Kelly found out, Lottie Burke, that was her name, Lottie Burke. She found out that her daughter, Esther Fairfax, lived just outside of London in Hungerford in a tiny, tiny cottage in a little village just outside of London. And Kelly was like, I am going to talk to this woman. She met her online, traveled to go meet her to Hungerford. And she created this relationship with Esther, who had been trained by her mother, Lottie, in the original method. And so you can't call it the Lottie Burke method. Somebody bought Lottie Burke's name, and you can't call it that. There's all these people that kind of stepped in and, copyright and whatever. There's all these copyright infringements. And so Kelly was like, all right, based on what Esther Fairfax, Lottie's daughter, is teaching me, I'm going to go back to the roots, and we call it the original. And it's the London method because it started in London in the 60s. And Lottie would teach these classes. Her first studio was in the basement of this tiny little studio in London. And it was this hot and sweaty. And there'd be like celebrities in there and people off the street. And it would be full of laughter. And Lottie loved to make sexual jokes. And, that's why we do a lot of pelvic floor, because strengthening your pelvic floor actually helps strengthen your lower abs, which helps keep your back safe. All these different things are related. And so Lottie's thing was everything is related to sex, and she's making these off-color jokes, and she's laughing, and everybody's talking the whole time through class. And so when Esther was trained in that, Esther kind of took it to her own studio, and Esther loves animals. So a lot of the moves, there's like a porpoise move, and there's one called elephants, and there's one called, a lot of her moves are animal based. So she took it, made it her own thing. And so Kelly took it to America and was like, this is the London method, meaning this is the way that it was taught in London when it started. And of course, let me recollect my thoughts here. So when I was teaching online, after my bar studio said, you can't sit with us anymore if you're going to go the way that you're going to go. And I said, that's fucking fine. But I wanted to be certified in something else. So I did this certification through an online bar thing, International Ballet Bar of America, whatever. And the instructor that I met that certified me said, you know what you would really love? You would love the London method. And I was like, I know the London method. I know Kelly. I've known Kelly since 2006. I watched Kelly live blog about going to London and meeting Esther Fairfax. I'll hit her up. So I took a class over Zoom with Kelly, and we stayed on Zoom for 2 hours after talking about our experiences in the fitness industry and how much, she told me firsthand how much she loved Esther, and she invited me to become a teacher. And I was like, okay. So I got to learn from them how Lottie Burke originally taught classes, the atmosphere that she created. So not only these exercises that had been done since the 60s and how they had changed when they were brought to America. The whole thing about when barre was brought to America, when Lottie Burke's technique was brought to America, it was then Americanized. Mm-hmm. It was made to be formulaic. It was made to be, they wanted to make it accessible to everyone by virtue of making it like an American fitness class, which was very regimented, which was very, everybody faces forward, the instructor has a microphone. They do that. So they did that in the 70s. And also, you know, they added exercises that were familiar to Americans. They added planks. Planks were added to barre classes by a man. And I'm like, okay, so we don't do planks anymore. Like, that's out. That's not who's taking my class. We don't need to do those. There's other ways. And it's funny because I did then take an American barre class recently, and I could hold a plank for so much longer because I wasn't doing them, because my abs had become so much stronger from doing the London method ab exercises because they were so much more effective with your transverse abs. Anyway, so I started working with Kelly, and then we have this relationship where I'm the music director for them, where I make her playlists all the time, and I send them all to their other teachers. And she had me in to do a musicality seminar to actually teach some of the instructors who don't have a dance background, who aren't, you know, they don't know their style yet, to teach them how to find their own style, how to incorporate the music. And I did a 2-hour seminar on how to find what kind of music you like. You know, maybe you like to teach to classical music. Esther Fairfax loves to teach to classical music. Maybe, like me, you like to teach to 80s and 90s. You know, maybe you like musicals. Maybe you like nu metal, and you're like, my class is going to be all fucking Korn. You know, maybe that's your thing, because whatever you're passionate about is going to come through, and that energy is transferable. So even if, you know, somebody comes to your class and they don't like Limp Bizkit, they don't like Korn, they don't like working out to Rammstein, but you're passionate about it and you're excited about it, that makes them like, yeah, okay, cool. I see what you love about this, and I love it too. And then they get excited, and that energy is transferable. So that was like, in addition to the exercises, that is why the London method appealed to me. And the other thing was that the London method, when you're certified in it, what Kelly wants to do, she's like, then you take it and you go out into the world. You don't have to pay me any royalties. You don't have to, you know, you take it out into the world and you make it your thing, and you spread that energy, and then other people get to know about it. The whole point is inclusivity as opposed to exclusivity. When I was teaching for the barre studio, that was like, you can't teach our method anywhere but for us. You can't give these moves. And Kelly and the London method's whole outlook is keeping it enjoyable, giving it to everybody, like giving away free classes and saying, come join us, come find out why this is so good. Moving your body, feeling good, and being able to maintain your level of fitness and movement and mobility so that you can continue to do things like get on the floor and play with your kids. You can go to the grocery store and lift all those bags of groceries at once because you refuse to make 2 trips to your car. You can, you can live your life how you can get on your hands and knees and pot that plant and then pick it up and lift it heavy and put it over there. You know, you can climb a ladder and your balance is so good that you can reach over and sand your walls without worrying about falling, because you've done all these things to preserve your health. It's not about maintaining your fitness to have 6-pack abs. Like, that's an unattainable goal. And for who? For what? You know? What are you, a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model? Which then that begs the question of, why are we still advertising that as the norm or the ideal? Anyway, I could go into this for fucking hours. But you know what I mean? Like using it as a way to navigate through life. Like, a thing that she told me that I absolutely loved was they do so much pelvic floor in the London method, and it's such an integral part of your body's overall healthiness, that for women and for men, for everybody who has a pelvic floor, which is all of us, all bodies everywhere. But she was like, the women that have taken my class and then gotten pregnant have really easy labor and delivery because their pelvic floor is so alarmingly strong. And it was like, oh, I will sign up for that. As a person who wants to have kids someday, I'm like, let's get that shitty part over with. So, but things like that are like helping fitness become part of your life and not like a necessary part that you hate because you want to look a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Helping, like, this tangent has gone for so many ways, but it's like an enjoyable workout that helps maintain your body's flexibility and mobility as you age. Do you know who, every time I've taught master classes at the Linden Method, do you know who's there? Kelly's mom. Kelly's mom, who's in her late 70s, is like my number one client. And I'm like, that's what I want. And she's like, I love your classes because I can, you know, I'm doing them because I want to play with my grandkids. I want to go for a swim with my, you know, teenage grandsons. And I can, you know, I'm staying mobile for that. I'm not trying to stay mobile because I want to look a certain way, because I want to weigh a certain amount. It's because I want to maintain my mobility and be able to live life to the fullest as I age.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah.
And you know, the phrase is, as soon as you stop moving, everything else kind of quits moving too. So, you know, my 94-year-old gran goes for walks every day. She's had 2 hip replacements and is still spry as ever. I mean,
Hunter's dad turned 81 last year. He got a hip replacement. He goes running all the time. He's like, I gotta keep moving. Same, my grandmother, she's 94 now, but she like would hike up mountains daily. Like, she lives in Tucson, and she called herself Fun and Power Grandma Jean, and she would go for hikes. And she was 90 years old, dragging that canoe out to the lake. Come on, Erika, jump in. And I'm like, with you? But, you know, learning to do that, but in a way that isn't like, you know, full of toxicity like generations before us. Learning to keep it, you know, especially since people are living longer. And there was, you know, there was that study that came out that I remember seeing this article passed around that was like, you know, signs that you're, wait, what was it? It was like signs that death is imminent for you or something. And it was like, you can't bend over anymore, or you can't get up from the floor from seated. It was like, those things mean your lifespan has been shortened or whatever. I'm doing this article a disservice and making it sound really incredibly morbid, but it was like, maybe more ways to ensure that your body is functioning as it should for a longer lifespan include being able to get up from the floor from seated, and, you know, being able to bend down and tie your shoe or something like that. Maybe that's a better way to frame it than there's signs you'll die soon.
Oh, geez, yeah. Well, Erika, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy Sunday. I know you're in the middle of moving, so thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and the wider world. I definitely feel a kinship here, so hopefully we can keep that going.
And thanks for inviting me. This has been really fun. I like how you're like, I go for about a half hour, and we're an hour and a half in, and I'm like, which Pandora's box do you want to open now? But...
Right. Well, we can do it again. How about that?
Yeah.
All right.
I love it.
Perfect. Well, Erika of Ghost Baby Fitness, thank you so much. And good luck with moving. Good luck with everything, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, and it was lovely to meet you, and we'll stay in touch for sure, because again, I see you, I get you.
All right, perfect. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thank you.